Go on. So, we did say question for question. We've been on this question for about half an hour. It's time for me to ask a question about the New Testament. I'd like for all of you, Christians especially, to listen very carefully to this because it's a big problem. Massive theological issue for you. So, I want Bob to answer this question for me. On what day, I was going to save this for Easter, it was going to be my Easter special, well I guess I'll use it now. On what day was your man God killed? Was he killed on the day of the Passover? Or was he killed on the day of preparation before the Passover, as it says in the Gospel of John?
Jesus is king.
Yeah.
King of the mud. Let's go, go on.
Yeah.
When you're ready.
You might need some more water, mate.
Yeah. I'm gonna. That's got plenty.
You're going to be quite parched after this.
Right, ladies and gentlemen.
Jesus is king.
Right, ladies and gentlemen. He's actually quoting something, and I hope JC will be kind enough to find the video and link it when he releases this video to a presentation that I did that talked about this entire topic. Talked about this entire topic a couple of years back.
Did you eat his body today?
Right? Listen.
Eat his body and his blood.
Listen. Now, your OB only has mockery. So a careful reading of the Gospel of John will show that Christ was crucified on the day of Friday.
Amen.
That is what the Gospel of John will show. However, ladies and gentlemen, a clumsy reading of the Gospel of John will lead the clumsy reader, who's only quoting verses out of context without reading the actual full book, to the conclusion that Christ was crucified on the Thursday. So, that's the answer to your question.
All right, anyway. So, here's the problem you see. The day in the Gospel of John, it's very clear. When Jesus is in front of Pontius Pilate, guess what? It says he was in front of Pontius Pilate and it was the day of preparation before the Passover. So, the Passover has not yet happened. Interesting. Let's go to the earlier Synoptic Gospels. What is Jesus eating with his disciples? What is the Last Supper? Guess what? It's the Passover meal. Wait a second. According to the Gospel of John, that man God should already be dead. So what is he doing eating the Last Supper, the Passover meal, with his disciples? This is a very big issue. It's a contradiction, and there's a reason for this contradiction, ladies and gentlemen. It's because John had a very specific motive here. The Gospel of John, whoever wrote it, he needed Jesus to be killed on the day before the Passover because he knows, go back to Exodus, what happens? You don't kill the lambs on the day of Passover, you kill them just before, on the day of preparation. That's why he needs Jesus to comport with Exodus. He needs him to be the Passover lamb. Little does he know that he will be contradicting the 3 synoptic gospels that are about to come to fruition. Right? So please respond to the gentlemen and the women here, Bob, who don't understand why your text can't even get right the death of your man God. Please go ahead.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, bear with us 1 second.
King of the dirt, yeah.
King of the cross.
That's it, yeah.
Long live Jesus.
Yeah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just looking.
Yeah.
Bear with us.
Don't forget, you got to marry him in heaven, yeah? Get ready for that. Paul's going to present you as a virgin to him. Yeah, you're going to be a virgin to Jesus, my friend.
You'll be working
He's
for
going to be
him
with you. He's going to bring you close. You're going to be presented as a virgin. Virgin to Jesus. You're going to be a virgin to Jesus, my friend. And you're going to be his wife. You're going to be his wife. This is in your Bible. You're going to be his wife. Don't get involved, my friend, because I'll come back. Don't do it. Please. Please. You're going to be his virgin. You're going to be his wife.
Long live Jesus.
You're going to be his wife. You look like a wife. So to be honest, you look like you suit a wife, the position of a wife.
Long live Jesus.
You suit the position of a wife.
Jesus
Yeah, that's okay.
my God.
You can't throw me off, my friend. I will fight against idolatry to the day I die, my friend. Your religion is idolatry. Idolatry, and you get to be his virgin. You get to be his virgin in heaven.
All the flesh. Leave
Please,
some for the rest of them.
please, leave some of the flesh. What flesh is it? The ass.
Don't eat it all.
What are you eating? What are you
Don't eat
eating?
all the flesh.
Please. Are you going to get there eventually?
Yeah. I'm just looking it up.
I'm having to deal with this guy here, man. I don't want to insult your religion, but I have no choice.
Obi,
no choice.
you're just making yourself look like a clown.
No, not really.
You really are.
You're going to be presented as a virgin.
Not only are you making
The Bible
yourself look
says it.
like a clown,
This Bible
but you're
says it.
making yourself.
Did
You're
you
making
eat
yourself.
Did you eat his flesh? Yes or no?
One second.
Are you going to be his virgin?
One
in heaven?
second.
Are you going to be his virgin?
1 second.
I'm just quoting his Bible. I'm not
Right.
insulting him. You're going to be.
This
did
is
you
not
know
hadith,
that?
this is Bible,
Listen,
bro.
you're going to
You
be
eat
his
it or you don't
virgin.
eat it.
You're
You
going to be his
drink it or you
virgin in
don't
heaven.
drink
Do
it.
you know that?
You're a virgin
Do you want to be a wife in
Oh,
heaven?
where is it?
Do you want to be a wife?
Where is
He's
that
going to
in
be
the
a wife in heaven, huh?
So in Luke chapter
Here,
22,
get it up.
verse 1,
You don't believe it. You don't
it
believe
says,
What does it say?
it says,
Get it up. Get it up. Get it up.
Luke refers to the Passover as the whole feast
Listen,
or
listen,
festival.
Listen.
Because the feast of the Passover, the feast of unleavened bread, was not a single day event. So a multiple day event. Right?
Where is your evidence for that?
1
Bob?
second. Well, you need to go and read up the
Go
Old
ahead,
Testament.
go ahead, yeah, go ahead.
Right? Do you not believe
Someone
that?
get a Jew.
Shall we
Someone
prove
get a
him?
Jew.
Shall we prove him wrong
Somebody
again?
find a Jew, bring
Shall
him
we
here,
prove
and
him
let's
wrong
say
again?
he's right. Let's
Shall
say
we?
he's right.
Shall we prove him wrong
Go
again?
on. Go on.
So, the Passover, the whole feast or festival. So when Luke is talking about the Passover meal, he's talking about the entire festival. When John is speaking, bear with me.
Don't run off with my phone, yeah? You go.
Oh, we'll catch that guy.
So,
If you want to be a virgin to the man God, go ahead.
Are you done?
It's on you, my friend.
Are you
Go on.
done?
Yeah.
Yeah. Enjoy that, my friend. Enjoy that.
Enjoy that one. Hey, don't let that guy take my phone.
No, I'll catch it quick, man. I'll catch all these guys.
right. So So when John is talking about the Passover, when John is talking about the Passover, he's talking.
Not bad.
He's
Not
talking
bad.
about.
Good deal.
He's not even listening.
Sorry, go ahead, Bob. Go on.
He's not even listening. Childishness. Obi, you need to grow up.
I will.
You're an emotional
I'm
child.
just showing you what your God says.
You're an emotional
I just
child,
want you to
Obi.
know.
You need to
I
grow
just
up.
want you to know. Oh, you're not
Obi,
laughing very much now.
You need to grow up.
Look, it's real quiet.
It's all right. It'll take some time to wade into this because I got to refresh myself.
Go on.
But I promise
All right,
you,
bro, did you
he's
see
going
it?
to lose this,
Bro,
just
hello.
like he lost the
Hi,
others.
hi.
Are you done, Obi?
Did you see it? Did you see
Are
it?
you done? I read it. Are you done?
All right.
Are you done, Obi?
That's what awaits you, my friend.
Are you
Become
done, Obi?
Christian. Go on.
Brother, don't come and talk to me about that again. You can see how immature he's behaving.
Yeah, I know.
Is this impressing you about Islam right
A
now?
husband and a virgin.
Yeah, did
I'm
you?
just quoting
There
the
you go.
Bible. I'm
Not
just quoting
impressing. Not impressing. Not impressing.
He likes
It
that, he
literally
likes that.
says
That's
you're
what
not
If he likes
impressing.
it, it's fine. It's on him.
Yeah.
He likes it.
They're abusing you
So
because you
loves it.
show sincerity
So
in
good, so
understanding
good.
Christianity. Now
So
they're
loves
abusing.
it.
Yeah.
Father's Day,
Yeah.
bro. Come on.
Like the thing is, Obi is abusing a Muslim because he's showing sincerity in learning
I'm
about
not abusing.
Christianity.
Have I abused you?
Yes, you
Have
mocked
I
him.
abused you?
You've mocked and laughed at him.
No.
Just stay on point.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Yes,
I would
do
love
that,
to.
Obi.
Yes, I will.
Grow up, Obi.
Tell him stop shouting.
Grow up,
Like
Obi.
that.
Are you ready?
All right, go on, mate.
Right, so when John, you've got to look at the way that John uses the word Passover, right? So he refers to other events occurring during the Feast of Unleavened Bread as part of the Passover. When he refers to the Jews not wanting to be defiled to eat the Passover, for instance, in John 18:28, it's likely that he's referring to a festival of offerings and meals that the Jews would have eaten on the Saturday, because John is clear that Christ was crucified before the Sabbath. And what day is the Sabbath, Obi? What day is the Sabbath?
Bobby.
A Saturday. So if Christ was crucified before a Sabbath, what day was he crucified on?
Friday.
Friday.
Let me finish.
Now he wasn't listening.
Oh, we listen.
As part of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, he was referring more broadly to what we might call the Passover festival, not simply the Passover meal. That Saturday would have been a high Sabbath or a Sabbath that occurred on a festival day. This made the Sabbath very special indeed, and it would have been understandable that the Jews didn't want to defile themselves so they could continue to participate further in the Passover festivals. So reply to what I said, Obi.
No problem. Okay.
Bob,
So,
because the guy.
yeah. Oh, is it going to start now? Is it going to start?
Okay, let's move that way.
Okay, yeah, go on. Should we go against the fence bomb?
Yeah. So let me go over my answer again, because you weren't listening the first time.
Well, it was hard.
Yeah, well, you weren't trying, right? You weren't even trying, bro. So the point is, you've got to look at how John uses the word Passover.
Okay.
Right? Sometimes he uses the word Passover to refer to the entire festival or the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And thus, when you understand that, the verse that you quoted, right? The verse that you quoted means that it was a day during this celebration on which the Jews would prepare the Sabbath. Now, Christ was crucified before the Sabbath in the Gospel of John. The Sabbath is what day?
End of Friday.
Which is, yeah.
End of Friday.
Right, so a Saturday.
Well, yeah, for Jews it'd be a Saturday.
Exactly. If Christ was crucified in the Gospel of John before the Sabbath, what day was he crucified on?
Before the Sabbath? Well, then it would still be Friday for us.
There you go.
Yeah, it'd be Friday for
So
us.
therefore, there's no contradiction between what the Synoptics say and what the Gospel of John say.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Bob is failing to understand something very vital here. What Bob doesn't understand is Mark, Matthew, and Luke, they condemn John, right? They condemn John's timeline entirely.
No, they don't.
I'll tell you why.
No, they don't.
Well, allow me to speak. I allowed you to speak.
No, you
Yes
didn't.
or
You
no?
interrupted me constantly.
Okay, let me know when you're done. Let me know when you're done.
Are you going to interrupt me again?
No, I don't recall interrupting you anyway.
Yeah, you interrupted me back there.
Well, there was all sorts going on there.
Go on.
Anyway,
Go on.
So, what Bob doesn't understand is Mark, Matthew, and Luke, by saying that Jesus is eating the Last Supper, which is the Passover meal, they condemn the timeline of John. Because according to John, Jesus should already be dead. Because it says very clearly, he was in front of Pontius Pilate. My goodness, your hero, Pontius Pilate. He was in front of him, and it was the day of preparation before the Passover. So you cannot escape this verse by throwing jargon like, oh, it was a high Sabbath. Oh, it was a Sabbath. Is that a Friday or a Saturday? My friend, the text is clear. John is saying it is the day of preparation before the Passover. Mark, Matthew, and Luke are saying he is eating the Passover. He should already be dead. The reason behind why John does this is because he needs Jesus to comport with the idea of the Passover lamb in the book of Exodus. Because what happens in the book of Exodus? The lambs are not killed on the Passover. No. They're killed the day of preparation before the Passover. So that's why John needs him to be killed, not on the Passover. He needs him to be dead before the Passover, like the lambs in Exodus. So it's a big, serious issue. You've got a contradiction in text, and you've got a contradiction in theology.
Are you saying Thursday?
No, I'll come back to it. It's all right.
That's the only thing you can say.
Right, can I just point out you're wrong?
I'm wrong.
You are wrong.
I'm wrong.
You are wrong.
Yeah, I'm wrong.
You are wrong.
Go on, show me
Right.
why I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to show you why you're wrong. Right? So John 19:14 says the day of preparation of the Passover. This day of preparation is language that is indicative of the preparation for a Sabbath. What else are you preparing for? For example, in Mark 15:42, you see that the day of preparation, and this is a quote from Mark 15:42, was the day before the Sabbath. Did you see? They're using
Nobody saw.
language.
No one saw.
Well, the point is, you need to go away and you need to inspect it a
Please,
little
I
closer.
beg you.
Yes, you really do.
Carefully.
John 19:14, John says the day of preparation before the Passover. The day of preparation is language for a day before the Sabbath. Jews prepare before the Sabbath. That's what they do. It's a preparation day.
Yes.
So when Mark 15:42 explains that the day of preparation was the day before the Sabbath, it means that John and Mark are saying the same thing. If John is using the word Passover to mean the Passover festival or the Feast of Unleavened Bread, then this verse is easily understood by means that it was the day during this celebration on which the Jews would prepare the Sabbath.
You done?
So it's not a contradiction.
Okay, right.
It's not a contradiction.
Let's try this one more time.
You can repeat yourself, but it's already been answered.
I'm going to ask you a question, Bob.
Yeah.
Listen carefully. Is the Last Supper the Passover meal?
Yes.
So how is he still alive? He's supposed to be dead according to John. He's in front of Pontius Pilate, and it says it's a day of preparation before the Passover. Are you understanding what I'm saying? I need you to understand.
You don't be badgered.
No, I'm not.
He's just badgering.
I'm not badgering. Do you understand what I'm saying?
You're saying that the meal occurred on the day before the Passover.
No, I'm saying the meal was the Passover meal.
On the day of the Passover.
That's right.
On the Friday.
No. Jesus is killed on the day of preparation before it.
Which is the Thursday.
Which is the Thursday. According to John, it would be Thursday.
Right.
But according to everyone else, it would have to be Friday. He's killed on the Passover.
Right, so let me reply to this, because the thing that he's not explaining to you is how John uses the word Passover.
You're saying it's
He's talking about a 7-day festival in which he can refer to, he uses the same terminology, but he's not necessarily, he's referring to
Don't let him trick you, right?
day
Listen
within a
carefully.
festival. Let me
you
just,
guys are debating each
yeah,
other, right?
I know, but you're the impartial one.
No, he's a Muslim.
Well, are you still, are you Muslim?
Right.
Are you upon truth? Yes. or no?
Let's be quick. Let's be.
Yeah, but we are open.
Right. Listen.
We'll speak up.
Listen. The Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread were so closely related, both in time and theme, their titles were sometimes used interchangeably. For example, Luke says, so I'm using examples from the Synoptic Gospels to demonstrate the way that these languages used interchangeably. For example, Luke says, the Feast of Unleavened Bread drew near, which is called the Passover. So the fact that these terms are used interchangeably allows John and the Synoptic Gospels to use language within the same festival period that would appear at a face value level to contradict one another without necessarily contradicting. Because as you can see in Luke 22:1, the Feast of the Unleavened Bread drew near, which is called the Passover. Though technically the Passover was a single meal, but the Feast of Unleavened Bread was a feast of 7 days. So because in Jewish idiom at the time of the 1st century, Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread were used interchangeably and everybody knew what we were talking about, John and the Synoptics can use the terminologies without contradiction, meaning they are talking about the same day. The other evidence that we have, ladies and gentlemen, apart from the fact that Obi doesn't understand how the language was used in the 1st century, is the fact of church tradition. There was no competing tradition to demonstrate that Christ was crucified on a Thursday. For 2,000 years, Christians have honored the crucifixion on a Friday. Remember, the church existed before the Gospels did, and there is no competing community of Christians that argue that Christ was crucified on a Thursday, which would be true if Obi was correct, because the Gospels were written to different audiences. And if one of those Gospels was saying that Christ was crucified on a Thursday, you would have early Christians honoring that day, and there would have been a debate and an argument amongst the Christians. That did not occur. Why? Because the writers were using their language in a 1st century sense, where Feast of Unleavened Bread and Passover were interchangeable phrases.
Right, anyway, Bob is doing his best. He's tap dancing here. He's doing his best. He's not doing a very good job, and I hope if you guys are listening, you're seeing right through what he's saying. What Bob is failing to do, he's failing to actually grapple with the text. The text could not be clearer, ladies and gentlemen. The text says, in the Gospel of John, John 19, I believe, it says that he is in front of Pontius Pilate on the day of preparation, before the Passover. It doesn't matter if the Passover is a week-long celebration. John is still saying it happened before it. Is that making sense? Right? Now, the only thing Bob can do right now is say that Mark, Matthew, Luke are A, wrong. It could just be wrong. I believe they're wrong. I believe they're all wrong anyway. Right? Or he could say, you know what? It isn't the Passover meal. And if he says that, then again, he needs to concede that Mark, Matthew, and Luke are wrong, because it could not be clearer. What are they preparing for on that day? What are they eating? What's the bread they pass around? What's the wine they're drinking to remember his supposed sacrifice? It is the Passover meal. It says it very clearly. It is the Seder meal. You can't get around it. He's going to try to tap dance. He's going to try and throw words out there. He's going to try to confuse you. But you need to see through that, and you need to bear in mind that my arguments are based on the text. What does John say? What does Mark, Matthew, and Luke say? They are all explicitly clear. Mark, Matthew, and Luke, they are eating the Passover meal. John, he's in front of Pontius Pilate, about to be executed. He's about to be executed. He should already be dead, according to John. Right? He should not have had the Passover meal. He doesn't make it to the Passover meal. He doesn't make it. Right? Either you acknowledge that Mark, Matthew, and Luke are wrong, or you can acknowledge John was wrong. I'm going to run you through one more thing, ladies and gentlemen. This is my last point, and you can respond. You need to understand, why does John do this? John is doing it for a very specific theological reason. The reason is because he needs Jesus to be the Passover lamb. He needs it. That's what his theology is based on. He's the one constantly calling Jesus the Lamb of God. He's the only one that believes in this theology. Mark, Matthew, and Luke don't believe in it. That's why they never call him that. But John does. And that's why he needs him to be dead on the day of preparation before the Passover. Why? Because you don't slaughter the lambs on the day of the Passover. Right? You slaughter them on the day of preparation before the Passover. That's how John does it. That's how he makes Jesus comport with what happened in Exodus, the Passover, when the angel of death came and took all the firstborn children in Egypt who did not have the blood on their doors.
Let me reply.
Go ahead.
Right. So once again, Obi has missed my answer completely. And the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, Obi's got his point, and he wants to argue for what's called a prima facie contradiction. Prima facie contradiction means a contradiction of first appearance. Now, his mockery is no good in this debate any more than it was when I embarrassed him over there. Ooh. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to recognize the fact that John sometimes uses the word Passover to refer to things, other events occurring during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So, for example, in John 18:28, it's likely that he is referring to the festival offerings and meals that the Jews would have eaten on the Saturday, the Sabbath, as part of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. He was referring more broadly to what we might call the Passover festival. The Passover meal kicks off the Passover festival, and when John is referring, and the Gospels are referring,
it doesn't matter. I'm sorry,
it really does. Obi, we went for about half an hour, 45 minutes over there on this topic. We've done nearly an hour on this one.
No worries.
Yeah, so my point to you is, my point to you is, bro.
It feels like
my point to you is, my point to you is, you're simply trying to insist. Ladies and gentlemen, it is simply a fact that sometimes you have to read a text carefully. Unfortunately, Obi has not read the text carefully.
You need to read it carefully.
The text clearly states, and I hope JC will link the talk where I explain this in the detail.
He ain't gonna link it.
Yeah, I hope he will.
I hope he will. JC, don't do it.
I would advise, and I'll put it in. Right? The reality is the Gospels don't contradict. They all state that Christ was crucified before the Sabbath. And the Sabbath is a Saturday. Christ was crucified on a Friday, and all the Gospels agree.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, have a good day, Obi.
It's good.
Have a good day.
Next time.
Yeah.
Excuse me, gentlemen, can I just have a quick photograph, and I want to see some love?
Yeah, all right. I can't touch him, though, because he's...
There's no love here, bro. He hates me.
I don't hate him.
I love him.
Incorrect. What happened
Only
to the Crusades?
Christians are allowed to love, apparently.
What happened to the Crusades, man? You slaughtered us, no?
Aren't you meant to hate for Allah's sake?
Well, only those who believe in idolatry.
Do I believe in idolatry?
Yes, you do.
There you go. So he does hate me. So he does hate me. So there you go.
Your God hates
Sums
him.
it. Sums
God hates
it.
him.
The photograph is a lie.
His own God hates him.
The photograph is a lie.
His own God hates him. His own God hates him. It's not me.
It says in the Quran that not all people of the book are bad, and God will choose.
Oh, well, I don't think he falls into that category.
Right.
But we can debate them, of course. We can debate them.
Then from Scotland coming to you live.
So, ladies and God bless you, bro.
All right. Bro, do you want to come chat to me for a second?
Bro, he's frightened that you're going to have an honest conversation with me in which you learn about Christianity.
I don't care. Wallah, you can go back.
Come and talk to me anytime you like.
Yeah, thank you.
Come and talk to me anytime you like.
Ask him.
I'll come. I'll talk to you. Do you know what the problem is?
Yeah.
My family don't know I reverted.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bit of an issue. When you and I were talking,
Yeah.
I was one of many in a crowd, and I was just asking you questions because I want to know.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, everyone else walked away, and it was me and you having a bit of a lengthy conversation.
Yeah.
But all cameras were on me.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, I've accepted your apology.
Yeah.
But like, if you value what I find so ironic is one of your first deeds as a Muslim was to lie,
This is why I came
and
to apologize.
and that's accepted. But my point to you is, you never would have done that as a Sikh. So you were actually a better person when you were a Sikh.
So I was switched to agnosticism.
Yeah. So
But anyway, look,
I want to present to you. I want to present to you.
Again, the reason is my
Yeah.
family don't know, and then all the cameras are on me, and now I'm
Yeah.
going to have to tell them before they find out
Yeah.
online.
And
And that
peace with you, bro.
presents some difficulties.
And I want to encourage you, bro, to come and sit with me and to learn about Christianity. What you must not.
I want to.
Anything that any Dawagandist in this park says to you about Christianity, come and check it with me. Write it down.
Well, first of all,
and
I'm
come
gonna
and check it
read
with
the
me.
actual scriptures.
Yeah.
Read the books.
Yeah, read the Bible.
66 Bibles.
Yeah.
66 books. I'm going to read all of them.
Well, whether you read the 66 one or the 72 one, it makes no difference. But I'll see maybe if I can
But
get you
anyway,
one
yeah,
off that table.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll read it anyway.
Come
I
and
will
talk
be
to me
coming
again.
every week.
Come and
But
talk
again,
to me again.
I would want to apologise to you.
Your apology is accepted.
I got rattled when the cameras were on me.
Apology
I'm like, my
accepted.
family's going to see this now.
Apology accepted. But my advice to you is that you need to learn about Christianity. You really
course,
do.
yeah, of course.
All right. God bless you. Thank you. Take care. Yeah.
So what happened there with Obi?
So sorry. So the first debate with Obi was about. It ended up being about. We were going in one direction, which was I wanted to show that in the Quran there are no 5 pillars of the Quran, but it always gets diverted onto hadiths. And then we ended up talking about synoptic problems of the hadiths, and I gave 2 examples where hadiths disagree. One of those examples has real theological implications, which is the last ayah of the Quran. And what you saw was Obi again and again and again being proven wrong and making claims that he couldn't back up. And all he had was sophism, mockery, and laughter. But I demonstrated that there's contradictions in the Quran and that there are contradictions in the hadiths, and yet they're telling us that these are reliable things. The second debate is a very complicated debate, and I wasn't prepared for it. But JC will hopefully link where I do an entire presentation on the Passover and the Gospel of John and the Passover, if you can find it. Yeah, I hope you can, because we did it a couple of years back. And yeah, I believe that I answered that argument, not as forcefully as I could have, because it is a very nuanced and complicated argument. But the answer will hopefully be with JC, where I present it more forcefully and completely. But the reality is it relies on the fact that John and the Gospels are using Passover, Day of Preparation, and the Feast of Unleavened Bread in a very loose sense. And so they're using the same language to talk about the same festivals. And we know that the church understood this in the first century, because if Obi is right, there should have been some Christians arguing that Christ was crucified on a Thursday. That didn't happen. Why? Because they didn't see the contradiction that we, 2,000 years later, separated from the culture, separated from the idiom, separated from the use of language, see at face value. It's like Christmas being a 40 days festival, but yet Epiphany also being a part of Christmas. Or the murder of the innocents. We talk about the festival of the murder of the innocents, but it's part of a bigger festival. So that's the answer. But I'll come back and I'll talk about it again, because it's worth doing again.